Baba Louie.
All right, we are back here, 3x5. I'm the 3, he's the 5. Christopher, Mark, and Maury Batik doing our thing. Episode 6 of season 2, The Mandalorian, The Tragedy, directed by your friend and mine, Robert Rodriguez.
Roberto Rodriguez.
Yes, sir. Robert Rodriguez is, I think, both of our favorites. Throughout the years, just seeing his development as a director. We got him in Desperado directing. What else did we say? We said Dusk Till Dawn, El Mariachi starting there, Sin City,
Spy Kids,
all these things. More. Tell me a little bit about Robert Rodriguez. What do you know? What did you expect, or what did you see in this episode that said Robert Rodriguez?
So to your point, not a lot because of Robert Rodriguez's background. He's been a director that I've been a huge fan of for quite some time because I call myself a amateur filmmaker, if you will. And Robert Rodriguez is kind of the gold standard for how do you transition from I'm a little punk kid with a Sony VHS camcorder to now I have my own studio and I'm making movies that other people are paying for. So starting with El Mariachi, which he probably made with some credit cards, going on to Desperado, where he finally got some studio budget, going on Dusk Till Dawn, hooked up Quentin Tarantino for some stuff. He eventually started his own studios in Austin, Texas, Troublemaker Studios. And that's where a lot of Spy Kids movies were made. That's why there's a lot of green screen. And you could argue his pushing of the ability to do CGI and stuff like that on lower budgets and without having big set pieces has kind of led to what we have with The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian looks like it's filmed with $200, $300 million budgets, but it's all filmed in a warehouse. You know, somewhere in California, I think it is called the volume filming all this stuff. And Robert Rodriguez is extremely comfortable with that, with how he did Spy Kids and Sin City. And then, big budget stuff, he also directed Alita Battle Angel, which has some of the best CGI of the last 10 years. And
agreed.
A story where he didn't write the story, so he has to have a little bit of concern for the fans of the original medium of Alita Battle Angel. So being able to balance, fan service with the needs of the producers, with the need of budget, with the fact that you're a director and you want to put the best thing you can on screen. He's intimately familiar with that whole tussle. So, yeah, great guy for this. And because of that, you almost couldn't tell it was his episode because it didn't have some of his hallmarks from the past, which were shortcuts to make something with not as much money. You can see, the little bit of glitch in the CGI or the green screen or something like that. And you don't anymore because he's perfected his craft.
Good. Excellent points. Excellent point. And adding to that, I saw him in an interview about this episode in particular, and he said the writing, the story here was only 19 minutes, I think he said, of content, and that's how he measures, 19 minutes of dialogue means it's going to be 19 minutes. So he had to fill in quite a bit, and he decided to fill it in with a lot of action, which is right up his way, and this is where Boba Fett was officially
redeemed
on camera in living color, real life, and we see Boba Fett dealing with the gaffy stick and going to work with that. We see we get more of Fennec Shan, the assassin, who's we find out indebted to Boba Fett for saving her life, and she's dealing. We see 2 squadrons of stormtroopers get dealt with.
Horror.
Yeah, and all this is happening around this major plot point of this temple, this ancient temple on Tython that Mando has been charged with bringing, which Ahsoka told Mando, gave him instructions on what to do and how to link this Grogu up with a Jedi. So all of this is happening, and we now know 19 minutes of dialogue, and Robert Rodriguez is filling a lot of this in with action. And and it's great action. It's good action. You know, again, we're seeing Boba Fett. He gets his armor back on, which makes it even more exciting. I don't know where he's getting these missiles reloaded in this thing, but
where's the armor, right?
you know what I mean? But his little guidance system was activated, and he took out 2 ships, and ironically was like I was aiming for the lower one, but he hit the top one and it smashed it. So, you know, and also in this episode we have the Dark Troopers as well,
Yes.
which is another interesting point, and further explanation has to occur as far as what are these things.
Yep.
You know, are they man? Are they machine? You know, why? What's the anticipation about? Why have we been seeing little pieces of them? How are they related to the lab facility that we saw in the Siege episode that Carl Weathers directed? So it's a lot of little connections here. And again, great storytelling. Now we have more action in Star Wars that we haven't seen before.
Right.
Boba Fett busting heads is something new. You know, I mean, and the Mandalorian has been pushing the envelope and furthering the, you know, the enhanced violence in Star Wars. You know, the furthering of that, where you know, you saw people get hurt before, but it was, you know, you didn't see big dents in helmets and things that were going on. You know, you saw one time, you saw a helmet just tumbling down. I was like, is there a head in that helmet?
Right.
That was in the Siege. I was like, Jesus, you know, not that there had to be, but still. So it was a really good episode. I enjoyed it. I enjoy Robert Rodriguez. He has a certain flair for action and for violence, to be honest with you.
Agreed.
That I thought he brought to The Mandalorian, but in a very subtle way.
Agreed. And kind of what we were talking about in the Carl Weathers episode, where Carl Weathers brought that original old school 80s, 90s style action, which is with vehicles and planes and boats and trains and cars and spaceships and speeder bikes. Whereas Robert Rodriguez, more of a current generation director, bringing that ass whooping. You know, the Boba Fett is getting physical with these people in such a way where there's no question as to how good he is at what he's doing.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And what we said in our first episode, 3x5, I don't know who is more badass, you know, Din Djarin or Boba Fett, because both of those guys, man, they have had some serious training. We'll leave it at that. And finally, on this episode, we have the Seeing Stone itself and this new manifestation of the Force and what it can do or how it's used. We're seeing Grogu communicate or finding a way to communicate with other Jedi, sending out a Jedi SOS, you know, so to speak. And who's going to answer the call?
Right.
You know, and that Force energy from the Seeing Stone going up, you know, into the sky or into the atmosphere. I mean, that was something that was major. And I don't know if that's what happens when every Jedi sits there and tries to make that connection. You know, was his more powerful than someone else per se? Who knows? But, you know, and that little force field that was created that Din Djarin couldn't get through to leave was also very interesting. And the Razor Crest gets blown to smithereens.
Sad day.
You know what I'm saying? With only a Beskar staff to is left amongst the rubble.
If you're following along with how we're talking about how, you know, kind of that 80s thing of the character is tied to their vehicle and the vehicle almost has a personality of its own type thing, like that Mando's Razor Crest being destroyed is like
I knew you were going to do that.
The General Lee.
Right.
It's like Michael Knight losing Kit.
You know what I'm saying?
This is big. This is big. And it, as we move into these other episodes, I think they kind of set things up where, you know, it turns out Boba Fett still has Slave One. I was thinking for a second, does that mean Mando's going to end up with Slave One? Doesn't seem to be the case, but Mando's going to need a new ride. And
he's going to need a new whip.
Part of season 3. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely totaled his joint. It's mangled beyond repair. And I was when it was blown up, I was just like, oh no,
Right.
not the Razor Crest. I was like, geez, well,
It just got to fix. Like it
you
just
know what I'm saying?
been repaired. Like, nothing worse than getting your car in the body shop and wreck it.
And then bang, you know what I mean? Wrapping, not gonna say wrapping around a pole. That's kind of tragic, but absolutely. And with that, that is episode 6, the tragedy. Robert Rodriguez, 3x5, director's cut. We'll be back in a minute with episode 7.